Welcome to episode one of, we'll name this later, Payments Corner. Let's say Payments Corner for today. Welcome to episode one. And the idea here really is to bring experts in payments from across the region, across the world, in fact, and really try to add value to, various different operations across the Middle East and beyond. So that could be, if you're in operations, if you're in finance, if you're an e-commerce founder, whatever your role might be, if you're someone who interacts with payments, then essentially we're looking to try and provide some value to you. My name is Devon. I'm the founder of the Payment Partners. Again, we're a Middle East-based consulting firm, but we have customers in the Middle East as well as in the US, in the UK, and Europe. Today, I'm joined by Sara Herrera, who is our Chargeback director. So Sarah's somebody that I've been really, fortunate to have the pleasure of working with. She brings with her experience from PayPal, working specifically in the Chargeback team there, before going on to launch her own company supporting customers with chargeback and fraud prevention. So today's just an opportunity for us to have a conversation with Sara and really understand a bit more about the chargeback ecosystem, and again, maybe try to provide some value to you guys out there who have maybe struggled in the past with lost revenue through chargebacks. Maybe you've had your accounts frozen, or you've had a negative impact on your payment processor relationship. They're the kind of topics that we'll be delving into today. So without further ado, let me bring Sara in.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Let's start off with a little bit about your background. I think, from a personal perspective, I think you have a really interesting story. I've only recently become familiar with chargebacks in the past couple of years. So to hear that this is something that you've built a career in, even that is quite curious to me. So, maybe you could just share a little bit about how you got into chargebacks and how you started working for a large organization like PayPal.
Well, my journey started with PayPal, actually, when I got involved. Firstly, I started working for disputes, claims, and that's where you understand what's buyer protection, seller protection, and what type of risk is attacking merchants as well. Later on PayPal, I got a promotion and I started working for fraud prevention. Fraud prevention really covers every single corner of payment solutions, a payment processor. So over there, I learned what is attacking in a real big way, merchants' accounts. So in terms of chargeback, it's just one of them, which is pretty much mostly for friendly fraud, what is called friendly fraud, but I don't think it's very friendly. And later on, I learned about stolen cards, ATO, all sort of risk activities that can impact the revenue of merchants. So I started with PayPal. Later on, I moved to solo working with clients. But really what set the foundation was working for PayPal, because we have to agree that PayPal is a powerhouse in terms of payments and innovation. And really that was a strong foundational for me in my career.
Yeah. So how would you say it shaped your approach? I mean, I've also, I've worked in a big corporate. I understand how they can really direct and shape your opinion towards, in this case, chargebacks. So how would you say your time at PayPal really shaped your approach?
I think the way that you work in this big scale and complexity environment, I think it shaped you in any way, in every way of the issues that you get involved every single day, the way that they handle it. And what really, really resonated with me was the way that PayPal said that, as they planted that seed inside of me of, you need to be proactive rather than just being reactive in terms of fraud and chargebacks. So that's something that when I started working with my own clients, I understood that I need to bring this type of awareness to my own clients as well. We need to be aware that in terms of avoiding losing and losing money, losing revenue, you need to be proactive instead of being reactive.
Yeah, I mean, it jumps out at me just as you talk about your journey and almost jumping between the PayPal experience and then working on the client side. It's probably worth just kind of clarifying at this point that while you're at PayPal, obviously your role was to deal with incoming requests from customers. Is that fair to say or no?
With customers, yeah, when I was working for claims, I was providing services providing support to customers and merchants. So you can see the both sides. Yeah, you can see the both sides of, you receive a claim, you're a merchant, you receive a claim, but then you also receive the call of a customer. So you get the both sides of this story. The customer who is not happy and the merchant who is like, oh my God, I received a claim. This is impacting my business. So you kind of, at the beginning of my journey with PayPal, it was interesting because you navigate through those type of situations. What really, maybe I'm just anticipating myself in the conversation, but what really made me think like, oh my God, maybe merchants need more support than they are receiving, was because normally, yeah, PayPal offers buyer and seller support, but the seller support was very little. And I saw merchants struggle with chargebacks, with fraud, and every time that they will be hit with a dispute, with a claim, with a chargeback, they had to put a lot of money into that. And it was my wake-up call to, maybe I need to use my knowledge and use my background to actually step aside and step into, how can I help merchants to thrive and help them.
No, perfect. That transition is exactly what I was asking about. So it makes perfect sense. And I guess that it probably answers the question I wanted to ask you next, which was why you left PayPal, which clearly it sounds like you felt the desire to go and provide additional support to merchants.
Yeah, it was that, providing additional support to merchants, tailored additional support to merchants, and also to have the freedom to innovate, to have the freedom of learning new things and providing that to merchants. I think merchants, at the end of the day, they are also fighting for, to make a business, to thrive, to be successful. So the fact that they're doing that, I felt like compelling to, I want to provide that service, and I want to provide my knowledge, my experience into that. And it wasn't only about leaving PayPal, because I have to say that I really think that PayPal is an amazing payment processor, not for everyone, but it's an amazing payment processor. It was more like stepping aside and providing this to merchants, to small, medium companies that really don't know how to navigate in through this type of situations with chargebacks and fraud.
So on that note, what are some of the things you've noticed that merchants miss when it comes to chargebacks?
I think I would say that what they miss is that side of being proactive, of stepping into a business without having a clear strategy of how am I going to fight against chargebacks and fraud. At the end of the day, every single business is going to suffer from this. So just, awareness, I guess, when you're doing businesses, you need to be in, and maybe at the beginning this is very difficult, but let's understand that chargebacks and fraud really sink your revenue. It really makes your revenue go lower. Let's put into numbers. For every $100 received in chargebacks, a merchant lose $240. Yes.
Wow. for every, just repeat that for me, sorry. For every $100 in chargebacks, a merchant loses $240.
That's correct. Merchandise, fees, shipping, and all the operational cost, it comes from the merchant.
Right.
So those are the numbers that we are dealing right now, and that's a huge loss for every merchant who is trying to make their own business to be successful. And this is something that you understand when you see this into perspective and with numbers. I think it's going to help the people who is going to listen this. It's going to help them to understand, wow, I'm fighting against a big thing who might impact my business at every moment, anytime. So I think being proactive, having a strategy to be proactive, and with being proactive, I mean having clear communication with your clients, with your customers, to have clear policies. Do not just write your policies, just leave them over there. You have to revisit them. You have to flow with if your business is growing, if you're taking more customers, if you're taking more clients, you need to allow your business to flow with you growing, with the growing stages. And I think this is one of the most important things which covers being proactive with fighting chargebacks, I would say, is the lack of a robust when a merchant receives a chargeback, normally sometimes they don't have the compelling evidence, and that's just going to damage the potential outcome. So building that process of, I have high quality compelling evidence, and I know what type of compelling evidence I should be collecting. I'm going to give you an example of many previous clients that I have been working with. This is in a specific industry. This is for e-commerce marketing agencies. So they normally, this type of companies, they normally work with clients. They have access to Shopify, Facebook ads, TikTok, whatever advertising platform that you're using. So normally they don't collect the compelling evidence with enough time. And that results in the cardholder, the client, initiates the chargeback, but then they block the merchant, they block all the access. So the merchant ends up with no compelling evidence. So I see. If so I need to clarify anything, let me know. But it's so complex, and it's the strategy of the cardholder knows that I want my refund I don't like this service, or this service is not for me. So I want to win this chargeback. So let me block the merchant so they won't have any access to my accounts. So they end up with little to no compelling evidence to provide to the issuing bank.
So when we're talking then about high risk businesses or high risk business models, I think you've identified one straight away there. If you're
Definitely
providing services whereby you're being granted access to your customers' CMS, whether it be Shopify as an example, you're saying that they're at risk because the same evidence they would need to fight a chargeback, the customer is essentially in control of and can freeze them out from collecting that evidence.
Correct. And I have seen many cases like this.
Wow.
And that's when you understand the importance of having a proactive strategy against fraud, because this is clearly friendly fraud. The client has received the service. The client knows that maybe they just felt that wasn't for me, or their approach wasn't for me. But it's about the merchant has to protect itself, and just having the right strategy and knowing that I know it takes a lot of time to collect compelling evidence just in case a client just decides to initiate a chargeback. But this is the reality. The reality is, and it's even worse because normally those type of industries sell high ticket services. So normally we're talking about above 3K per transaction, which is a huge pain to deal with when you receive a chargeback, because all the things that you can, going to face with your payment processor. Payment processor is going to be like, oh, this is a 3K chargeback. This is not good for us.
Yeah.
So having the right strategy and having all your team working together, this is so important.
So as you're speaking, in particular about that need to be proactive, one of the things that's coming to mind is just that, there must be some, automation available. This doesn't have to be an entirely manual process, I'm guessing, or is manual the recommendation?
There are chargeback automation tools, of course, and this is good because sometimes, but I would say that for intangible services, I think a manual review, a manual understanding that, because it's so complex, the complexity of this type of cases, it goes beyond of what you can expect. So I think I will apply those tools for maybe tangible purchases, like, you purchase something, you purchase a bicycle, and then you get the tracking number. It's more ABC, right? It's more straight away. But for this type of complex cases, I will always use tools, because we are into that AI time where we are all, leading to using those tools, and they are gonna make our life so much easier than it is right now. But I think there is still this part of human review that I still love to do it, because just guarantee that we are understanding the situation, we are understanding the reason code of the chargeback, and we are understanding what's the pain point that we have to attack, not only for that chargeback, but also for future chargebacks.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. So changing topic just slightly, how do e-commerce businesses in particular prepare for a seasonal spike in chargebacks? I mean, right now we're in Q4. Common sense tells me that they'll be on the rise. And what kind of preparation can e-com firms do for that?
we're already in the middle of war right now, because tomorrow is Black Friday, and in less of a month we're going to be facing all the issues with Christmas sales and all this. It's a heavy season for merchants, but I'm going to give you, probably I have already mentioned this, but I'm going to give you three takeaways for merchants during Q4, which is going to be easy, but it's very important to keep an eye on this type of things. First of all, check your policies. Like I always say, check your policies. More important is refund policy and return policy.
Mm-hmm.
And then within this, for merchants, my recommendation always is ask yourself two things. Have you displayed your policies correctly to the customer? And then have you already display the option to the customer to accept your policies? Because this is really important. The customer has to not only know that you have some policies, refunds, and stuff. It's also that you are providing the option before processing the transaction to accept the policies. That's number one. Number two is customer service. I know it's going to be busy during these weeks, but you need to give a lot of importance to customer service, a proactive customer service.
Mm-hmm.
Answer the emails once they receive the product, check with them, because we don't want those type of chargebacks of not as described, I didn't like this, I didn't like that. So let's keep those friendly fraud chargebacks reduced to the minimum. Let's prevent this type of chargeback. That will be number two. And number three, it will be the real fraud, the real legit fraud. Because friendly fraud is a legit customers, but they are just not happy with. They had some expectations when they were gonna receive the product, and then I just initiated a chargeback because I didn't receive my Christmas gift on the Christmas day. So, but legit fraud comes into this time of the year like really strong, and we need to have a real a really good eye to that. So I will say that every merchant should have a specific team to review transactions and review certain patterns. So when we were talking about fraud patterns, we're talking about check if the IP, it matches with the shipping address, for example. It's the geolocation of the IP. Check if billing address and shipping address matches as well. This is very important because we know that there is certain type of fraud that might do this type of things. And then we have the spikes of high transactions, high value transactions. So if you receive high value transactions and you understand that the normal pattern of your customers, it's not that type of amount, then you should keep an eye on that, because at the end of the day, it's better to just have a review of the transaction, double check all the information with the customer, than losing your merchandise, losing the fees, the shipping, and maybe probably receiving a chargeback for a fraudulent transaction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So really interesting, and as you're speaking, it took my mind to Stripe for some reason. I think primarily just because they do have a strong suite of fraud prevention tools, specifically tools like Radar. And I think it's such a controversial topic. I would still say, the bulk of our work is probably around Stripe. Personally, I believe their technology to be really powerful. But, you know, there are these stories around things like account closures, frozen funds. And I think that, you know, there is this reputation that they hold around their willingness to freeze merchants' money. So I just wanted to ask from your perspective, and I know, you know, your history is PayPal, but I think since then you've obviously been exposed to various different gateway providers and payment processors. So what should merchants do to prevent disruptions and ensure continuity, specifically when it comes to Stripe?
That's a really good question, because, and I recently, like a couple of days ago, I received a message from a merchant who has been using Stripe for 1 year. 1 year wasn't that bad, taking into consideration that this merchant industry wasn't allowed for Stripe by Stripe.
Right.
So this is always my first approach. Have you noticed it, or have you reviewed if your industry is allowed by Stripe for Stripe terms and conditions? Because as merchants, we expect our customers to read our terms and conditions, but then we don't read the terms of services of the payment processor. And this is very important. Everything, like what type of industries they are working with. Is my industry allowed by Stripe? Is my industry will be impacted by Stripe freezing my account? This merchant had $44,000 frozen in the account, and normally that amount is on hold for 180 days. So that's something that no one wants to have, because we need that money, that cash flow, right, coming into it, paying invoices, paying, I don't know what. It also depends of the type of your business, but obviously 44K on hold, it's not a joke.
I think many businesses will feel the pain.
Yeah. So this is the first thing. Have you checked if your industry is accepted by Stripe?
Yeah. So I don't want to interrupt you, because I think that, you know, people want to hear your view, not mine. But this is a huge point that you're mentioning, and it's something that I struggle with, you know, on a maybe not quite daily, but for sure a weekly basis, where we will be speaking to a merchant and Stripe will be part of that conversation. Maybe they're already running Stripe, as you say, and we will just raise concerns about their business model, about their particular category, and say, look, you know, this is something that Stripe most likely wouldn't be happy with. And, you know, 9 times out of 10, at least the initial response is, we have an account and it's not given us any issues so far. You know, so I think that there's really education needed around that. And, you know, I'm glad that it's something you're highlighting today, that you might be fine up until a point. And when the point comes that you're no longer fine, you know, you could be trying to recover then large amounts of funds.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. And for example, for that merchant was 1 year, but then, you know, you never know when this is going to happen, because you are actually relying all your payment operations into a payment processor who at some point will just close your account. So what's the strategy after that? Because if you want continuity with dealing with your business, obviously you need a payment processor to work with. So if you want to take the risk, take it. It's risky because of all the mentioned situations and scenarios that a merchant can, get into that. But it's also, you should try to find where is your perfect payment processor, the payment processor who will give you the freedom of operating your business per your industry, per it's giving you the option of cross-border transactions. That is important as well. And also it's giving you the option of having all the tools of payment fraud prevention. But it is important to take this into consideration. And I see that people just take action when they are in need, they're desperate, because if you don't receive payments, how are you going to manage your business? It is impossible. It is impossible. So it's just, even if you keep your, because one of the things, the most important things for Stripe, keep your chargeback rate lower than 1%. That's okay. You can do it. You can monitor your account. You can have a radar for fraud teams, which is really good because you can add the rules. You can add the 3DS rules. You can check if any rule is creating friction. Obviously, we don't want to impact the conversion. But then this is a whole strategy. But the strategy, the most important strategy and the foundational thing that you have to build everything from is this payment processor really happy working with me?
Yeah, and I think there are high risk merchants, high risk processors out there, and I think there is nothing wrong with exploring those options. I think that maybe some high risk businesses, they feel comfort in the fact that they've been accepted by Stripe. They've got an account, and that account is receiving payments. So maybe in a way it makes them feel like, oh well, actually my business isn't high risk. But it doesn't change that fundamentally. It still is, and there could well be better partners out there for you in terms of gateway, in terms of processing. So yeah, I think it's a really strong point to mention. It's something that I think the audience today most likely would have been interested in hearing about. So thank you for that. Nothing else. I think I've taken enough of your time, and I think it's been a real eye-opening session, even for me, actually. I think, the most important thing is that you agree to do another one of these.
Yeah, for sure. We have a lot of things to discuss, to bring awareness to the merchants, because at the end of the day, it's our main purpose, to bring awareness, to help merchants to thrive in a safe environment. And you are only capable to create a safe environment when you have the tools and when you have the knowledge on how to do it. So I'm happy to join these conversations, and yeah, I'm happy to join you again in the future.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think your summary there was the perfect ending. So there's nothing more for me to add. So thank you everyone who tuned in and watched or listened, and look out for the next one. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.